matter how you do the math, it all adds up to you going down. So, are you going to go quietly?
Or is this gonna get loud?
Titans, go!
I started reading comic books in the 80s. I was an avid comic book reader.
I was reading Teen Titans when I was like in junior high school and high school.
Teen Titans was one of the most popular books at the time.
They were like the new superheroes, and they were teenagers, and it was different than Superman and Batman.
I was hooked into the Teen Titans. That was pretty much all I read throughout the Marv Wolfman, George Perez time on that book.
From the time I was 5 years old, when I saw the very first episode of Superman on television, I was a comic book fan. It's been a lifelong passion ever since. Well, Teen Titans was a comic book back in the 1960s, but back then it was Robin.
It was Wonder Girl and Kid Flash. It was just like the Junior Justice League. It was all the teen characters.
What they were the teenage sidekicks of the main heroes.
Marv Wolfman and George Perez, like, updated it and introduced all the new characters.
We took the popular ones, Wonder Girl, Robin, and Kid Flash, and brought in another character, Changeling, who's now called Beast Boy.
Whose turn to do dishes?
He started as Beast Boy, became Changeling, he's Beast Boy again, and created 3 new characters. Raven allowed us a more supernatural element to be put into the book on a regular basis. Cyborg, both a technological character and an urban character. By him being an African American, it allowed us to have different types of stories to be able to tell there. And Starfire, who came from another planet, so it gave us an opportunity to do intergalactic adventures.
There were no adults in the comic, no mentors. Previous versions of the Titan had an adult supervisor for the characters. I just wanted to get rid of those and treat them with the respect that the characters deserved. We believed in making them real characters so they were grounded in reality, but still had these incredible adventures where they were doing major things.
And some of the common problems that any teenager would face, magnified by, of course, the cosmic level that we can achieve in comic books.
Instead of trying to save a friend from doing something bad, they're saving an entire universe. We did stories where they dealt with runaways. We did several books for the White House on drugs. We did a lot of comics based on real kids' problems.
Some of the issues dealt with simple things like dating. Despite everything, some of these kids still had to go to school. Trusting each other. So they had a clubhouse, as it were, and a proximity to each other that meant a certain amount of trust and respect for each other as human beings, despite some enormous differences and some reasons for you to have distrust.
That's the period where it's all angst, where it's all, what am I going to do? Do they like me? Do they not like me?
So, we really are friends?
Bringing that into the characters is what made them work for a long, long time and made the new Teen Titans DC Comics #1 comic for years.
Somehow we struck a nerve. The relationship between the characters was something that the fans liked.
The big differences between what I was trying to do and what a lot of people were doing previously was really center on the characters, really make the villains important to the characters, as I say, not as just criminals robbing from banks or jewelry stores.
So for me and for Marv, we were never drawing costumed characters, we were drawing characters in costumes.
The difference, again, between the teams, between the comic book and the cartoon is, in the comic book, it was really a soap opera between everybody that was going on. And in the cartoon, they really are 5 friends who really care for each other. That really makes the action better.
Didn't you hear him? Your sister needs help.
Marv was very acceptable of the idea. He thought it was different from his Teen Titans, but he understood what we were doing with the new ones.
We've worked with Marv on the show a couple of times, and it's always great because he writes from character more than anybody that I've worked with. So he created these characters that were each unique, each individual, and very, very relatable, yet not the sort of people that you would meet in your everyday life.
We really wanted to make the characters iconic, and each one of the characters feels like someone that you know from high school, or you knew, or the kind of very iconic. There's a funny guy, there's a hero guy, there's a jock guy, there's a creepy chick, and there's a, hot chick.
Azrath Metrion Zinthos!
Raven's actually my favorite character. She is the exact opposite of Starfire. I was playing very much with emotional opposites so that they'd be able to work together interestingly.
Might you wish to hang out with me?
She's a telepath, an empath, who has an ability to manifest energy to a soul self.
Raven is complicated.
This was a character truly in control of his soul, because that soul self, that black shape, had to be controlled at all times.
Think again.
You don't want to let this Trigon demon that we saw in the cartoon show and was a regular character for several storylines in the comic book as well, you can't let that character out. A teenager, and these are all representations of different emotions of teenagers, is conflicting emotions all the time.
We need to control our emotions.
She is constantly having to do meditation to control herself.
Need to be alone.
That was just plain freaky, correct?
The one time she did explode and Trigon started to come out, the others had to help her. And that's a nice way of taking what we did in the comic book and translating it into your friends being able to help you contain the problems inside you.
Get out of my mind now!
Leave you alone with that?
Not gonna happen.
Raven is the cynical one. She's the one who's got a dry sense of humor.
Yo, Raven, try one. They're loaded with soybeany goodness. I respect that you don't eat meat. Please respect that I don't eat fake meat.
I suggest a large pizza with pickles, bananas, and mint frosting.
Starfire was a princess of another planet, and she falls to Earth in the first issue of the comic book, doesn't speak anything that we can recognize, and the Teen Titans rescue her. She is a complete innocent in many ways, but she's a great warrior.
No more chasing now, please!
If Raven was created to be the character who has to withhold emotion, Starfire is the character who explodes with emotion all the time. In innocent emotion and loving emotion, and also as the warrior, because she'll immediately go into battle in the cartoons and in the comic books. But at the same time, she's the one who cares most about keeping everyone together.
May we now go see if Raven is better?
If you have a best friend, you know that person's not going to think exactly the same way you do. Sometimes you're going to be arguing with them, sometimes you completely disagree with them, but you still want to be friends, and that's what I was trying to do in creating the differences between Raven and Starfire.
Starfire was the foreign exchange student, the girl from another town, from another way of doing things. She was really the kid from another culture, and we were able to base a lot of humor. She's one of my favorite characters.
This tangy yellow beverage is truly delightful.
That's mustard.
Is there more?
This is Cyborg. I'm either in the gym, playing Game Station, or kicking bad guy butt. Leave a message.
Cyborg is closest to our concept because he's basically a young man who's half man, half robot, and has to deal with the fact that he feels like he's a bit of a freak.
Just a natural part of being unnatural.
He was a victim of an accident that his father caused that almost destroyed his body and had to be rebuilt. He was an athlete, and he hated the fact that by becoming this cyborg, he couldn't do athletics anymore because he'd instantly be better than anyone else. He's tougher than the others because he is more city than all the other characters.
I quit!
Cyborg comes from this very emotional place. If he's happy, he's so happy. If he's mad, he's so mad. And all of that's only going to last about 5 minutes till the next thing comes along.
Pleased to meet you, little lady.
If he likes you, he likes you. If he doesn't like you, he doesn't like you.
The Titans are a way for him to not feel like he was a freak. And they brought him into the family, and that's what let him realize that he was a person.
I got the Sonic if you got the boom.
Sweet! Go, Beast Boy!
Well, Beast Boy also, he's the other character who was in the comic book before me.
And he has the ability to change into different animals.
I love the idea that this character could turn into any animal he wanted. And if you just left him on that level alone, I think that was fun.
All his characters that he turns into are green, so it's not like he can be a green gorilla and expect to hide among other gorillas. He'll always be identifiable.
But I wanted him to be more fun. I wanted him to joke around. I wanted him to be the one character in the Titans who loved his powers. He was somebody who absolutely adored being a superhero and would have fun with it and would be the Joker of the group.
This is gonna be so sweet.
More than anything, Beast Boy wants to know that he's cool, and he doesn't know that he is. So he's kind of all about getting that affirmation. He's always trying to make people laugh.
See? She thinks I'm funny.
Statistically, I suppose someone has to.
When things got too terrible for them, when the villains were too strong, he could bring it down to a fun level.
Who else never wants to go surfing again?
And they've kept that character exactly that way in the show, which I love.
Betcha Cyborg can do the robot.
We've made Beast Boy a lot more interesting in some ways in the cartoon because his power in the comic book was just turning into animals.
One thing I felt very strongly about was that Beast Boy, when he's in animal form, shouldn't talk, which was a departure from the comics. In the comic books, he's able to talk no matter what form he's in. If he was going to be that silly when he was in human form, when he was a rhino, I wanted him to be as tough and as scary as a rhino.
In the cartoon, I think his relationship with the rest of the Teen Titans has made him a better character.
Do I have to do the face? You know you can't resist the face.
And you must be Robin.
Robin was Batman's partner, created as the very first teenage superhero. Or teenage partner. No superhero at the time ever had a partner before.
This mask makes you look very mysterious.
The original version of Robin and the Robin that existed up until the Teen Titans was a very young guy, very smart, but he was more of a joker. He was always giving quips and fast puns, and he'd be jumping all over the place fighting the villains while joking with them.
The current Robin is a character called Tim Drake.
One of the things that I wanted to do was make him the actual leader of the Titans.
Titans, go!
Because he was Batman's partner.
In the cartoon, we never mention Batman. Robin is essentially his own superhero who is really, truly a leader.
Titans, he's got Cyborg!
He's the only member of the Teen Titans without superpowers. So his power is his mind. His power is his ability to organize the other characters.
So many of the best leaders are the ones who have to think first because they don't have the extra superpowers that allow them to do the dangerous stuff haphazardly. The man who knows that there's a lot at stake is the one you trust to lead you safely.
I wanted to make him more like Bruce Lee. I wanted to make Robin really, really cool and really different.
For me, at least, Robin's superpower is that he's crazy. He's got guts. He'll jump off of a building to save somebody and then figure out how to not die on the way down.
You'll just have to find out the hard way.
And to me, that actually makes him the most interesting and the most heroic out of the group.
I had to convince people that I was going to do a Robin that no one had ever seen before.
Maybe he just needs to chill.
Robin, we meet at last.
Who are you? Who is Slade?
Wouldn't you like to know, Barf Brain?
Slade was an important character in the comic book who we made an even more important character in the cartoon.
There's no reason to be a superhero if you're just going to sit around on a rocking chair. You need good characters to fight, good characters to stop. What we did was create a whole new type of character from Deathstroke, the Terminator, who was our main character.
And Slade is his first name in his alter ego. He's Slade Wilson. Like in the comic, basically, he was hired to kill the Titans.
He's the #1 bad guy. Each team needs one guy that you hate, and he'll be that guy. In a way, he sort of feels like he's Robin's father. He's the parental villain, and it makes the teenagers when you have grown-ups as bad guys.
And the message has been received.
When we did Batman, what I thought was good about Batman was we set it in like this alternate 40s world. And I thought for Teen Titans, what we should do is sort of set it in kind of an alternate 60s.
Teen Titans is in a fictional city on the West Coast. It's sort of a combination of San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego.
Oh, the comic definitely took place in New York. In fact, Titan's Tower was on an island somewhere in the East River. Marv and I were both New Yorkers. DC Comics was based in New York. And we knew the city much better than we ever knew California.
We wanted to be the West Coast just because we wanted to try to get out of the whole East Coast Gotham metropolis feel.
We wanted stuff that looked sort of more spontaneous, and we wanted Titans to have a different feel than kind of what we did before with Batman or Superman.
So we created this new thing. There's little hints of Tokyo in there also. That's because Glenn loves that.
An island in the Bay Area or Los Angeles seems to make much more sense than having it in the East River when you think about it.
The theme song was recorded by a girl band from Japan called Puffy Amiyumi. I'd seen one of their music videos on a public access channel when I lived in New York and became completely obsessed by them. I actually watched the whole music video to see what their names were at the end and see who they were. It all came up in Japanese and I had no idea. A few years later, I'm living in Los Angeles and I'm driving in LA and I hear an interview and I hear that song. And it's an interview on Puffy Amiyumi on NPR. And I pulled my car over and I started the Puffy Amiyumi harassment campaign. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something with them on Cartoon Network. Meanwhile, we were making the Teen Titans show and it had this Amerikanime, this Japanese influence. So I said, let's get Puffy to make the song for Teen Titans. Glenn and myself met with Andy Sturmer, who was their producer, and came up with some ideas of what we were gonna do.
TV shows, cartoons, don't have theme songs anymore, so that was a reason why we kind of went for that. I think I told them I wanted it like the old Batman show. I wanted it like the Spider-Man theme. And even like Brady Bunch and Partridge Family. I told them we should do something like that because no one's doing that anymore.
And Andy went off and wrote the song with Puffy that became the song that we have today. Glenn, like all the guys who work for Glenn and myself, we've all grown up with anime. We've all been influenced by it all our lives.
When they showed me the first script for the first of the Titans, I wasn't sure what was going on.
We wanted to make a superhero show like no other.
I didn't want it to just be an adaptation of an old comic.
I was happy it wasn't identical to what I did, as I didn't try to follow what the people before me did with the Teen Titans.
For me, the anime is an influence just from working with the overseas studios. I realized if you're gonna send the cartoons to the Orient to have them animated, you should kind of utilize the best of their abilities.
And once I saw the artwork, they showed me two versions of that they were considering of the Titans. Both anime to some degree, but one a little bit wilder than the other.
The Japanese have something called Super Deformed or Super D. It's the equivalent of like a Tex Avery-like take where the eyeballs come out.
Animation's about big reactions. And the old type animation was always about things, you know, squash and stretch. Characters can change form, characters can change design.
With this show, we wanted something like that. We wanted to see how emotional the characters got.
I'm fighting inside Titan's tower, and the tower itself is dancing as if it's caught in the fight, you know, very, very Tex Avery, very, very cartoony.
I pushed them. I said, make it weirder, make it different. Don't be scared of doing something nuts. And Amerikanime was born. One line that we said a lot while we were developing Teen Titans is the squint test, we called it. So we wanted to make the stories very obvious. David Slack was great at that. He really ran with that idea.
It was sort of a litmus test to know when things would work for a very young audience. In photography, it's for black and white photography. You squint your eyes and things either become black or white. You lose color. It's a way of knowing what a color image that your eye sees is going to look like in black and white. For us, basically, it had to do with how much explaining there was. If you open an episode with a bad guy on top of a toppled armored car with money spilling out and the Titans are around him, that squints because he's doing something bad. For me as a writer, what it meant was things that kids would see and go, that's wrong, you can't do that.
Things that kids get, jealousy.
Fascinating.
Sibling rivalry, getting beat up on the schoolyard. Things that we thought kids could really relate to and turn those into superheroic stories.
Take Starfire, for example. We never went into her backstory. We never said, well, she's from Tamaran and she's come to Earth. All we did is have her, in the scene that really introduced her character, have her eating cotton candy and talking about how strange things were on Earth. So we didn't have to explain that, we just showed it.
It vanished.
Yeah, it'll do that.
So that was the squint test in as much of a nutshell as I can put it in. The comics influenced the show tremendously. I was brought in because I wasn't a comic book guy. I'd read my share of comic books, but I was more of a TV kid. I'm a big science fiction book fan and all of that, but I hadn't really been deep into the comics the way that Glenn and Sam had. So my role was to be the guy who said, hey, guys, nobody knows what you're talking about. What was important about that series was that they were doing a lot of things that nobody had done with superheroes before.
One of the things that we tried to do with the Titans, and I was adamant about doing with the Titans, was make all the villains resonate with the individual characters. These weren't villains who were just stealing things from a bank, which most comic book villains were at the time. They were characters who had to deal directly with our heroes. So there was a personal connection between them.
We carried that over in the show. One of the things that we were really looking to do was to find a way to make the show about something more than just beating the bad guy, to make it about feelings, to make it about emotions.
Why are you wrecking everything?
Because it is amusing.
Did they look amused?
And I think the strength of the show comes a lot from the fact that it's about emotion.
Writing for the types of stories that Marv and I wanted to read as comic readers made it a little more universal, and it seemed to be a successful formula.
It's like, well, if we do Teen Titans, what do we want to see different about the Teen Titans, or what do we want to see? Since we're fans, we realize that the fans are going to like it the same way.
The success of the Teen Titans has been a lot of things. I think it was a new kind of superhero show that hadn't been out in a while. It was extremes. Mirkaname was something they had never seen before. The juxtaposition between characters that you really like and really butt-kicking action scenes made the show very interesting, and the stories are things that you can really relate to, and I think that's helped all to the success of the show.
Yes!
When we started working on season 1, we talked a lot about what made each of these people who they were. We felt like we needed to find who they were at the core and then build out on that.
Each character is different. That seemed really important, to try to make them all different from one another. So each one is an individual, but kind of how they all fit together is really good. I think the voice actors define the characters, and their individual personalities help shape the characters and really helped us separate one from the other.
We knew we wanted distinctive, realistic sounding voices because these characters truly are heroes. You wanted to get some sort of heroic quality as well.
Titans, go!
When we were talking about Robin, we were walking around this mall where we'd had lunch, and we saw these kids doing skateboard tricks. I realized all of a sudden, well, that's who Robin is, because there's a fearlessness about that. And when you blow that up to superheroic proportions, it's a kid who will jump off the roof of a building and figure out how to survive on the way down.
One of the things that I think is so cool about Robin is he's the one Titan that doesn't have any superpowers. He's gotten to where he is just through like perseverance and training, and he's this martial arts master.
So for the voice of Robin, we auditioned a gentleman named Scott Menville. It's got kind of a raspy quality to his voice. It's an identifiable voice.
Titans, have you heard anything from Hotspot? I've lost his signal.
It's pretty close to my voice. It's just I pitch it up to make him sound a little younger and kind of try to make him sound steely and a little cold. Early on, they threw out the reference of Clint Eastwood. Like in the first couple episodes, Andrea, the director, would say, "Give me a little Clint Eastwood."
Scott Menville definitely brought an intensity to it. And that kind of matched what we needed for the heroic part 2 and the leader in charge. And you can give somebody Titans Go, but it could also sound really hokey if you don't give it to the right person. And, you know, he's made it a very cool, you know, signature phrase.
Titans, go!
Azarath, Etrium, Zinthos.
Raven's a little bit more worldly, and she's kind of experienced more, and she's kind of more withdrawn than the other characters.
She was just instantly the goth, and we kind of knew how to approach that character.
We needed a different kind of voice than the other gung-ho hero voices that we were looking for the rest of the cast.
Initially, I just thought maybe she'd be cool and down here and dark and not your standard over-the-top animated performance. And so I went in and I did Raven, really just as my own voice is really low-key.
She did 3 or 4 different takes, 3 or 4 different versions of what Raven might sound like, and they were all quite good. And as she walked out of the studio during the callback audition, she said, I have one more thought.
I just had this idea that since she is part, you know, devil, that maybe there'd be some kind of odd texture to her voice. And I thought it'd kind of be cool if she had like a little bit of Zelda from Poltergeist in her. And I just started reading her with this, you know, unusual rasp that sort of rotates, as opposed to a boy rasp where, you know, if I'm doing a little boy, he's got a rasp here. She's got like a rolling rasp that's kind of strange and eerie, and that's what booked the part.
The mirror you found is for meditation. It's a portal into my mind, not a toy! My bad.
Beast Boy's kind of the class clown and the shape changer. He can be any animal he wants, but he's really insecure.
Imagine being a little green 14-year-old kid in this world and how people would look at you. And so that right there, I connected with that, because I've always been kind of like the outsider of everybody. So me and Beast Boy have that in common.
For the voice of Beast Boy, Greg Sipes, he had a quality to his voice that I just loved. It was so innocent and so sort of free.
Can you be any fish in the sea? I don't think so. When I came into the audition, they had a picture of Beast Boy on the stand, and all of a sudden, I was like, oh, so Raven, so you want to play some basketball or whatever? It just came out. I never did that voice ever before in my whole life.
I think that the way that I would have written Beast Boy, had we not cast Greg, would have been a little bit more crass and a little bit more of a jokester. So hearing his voice coming through Beast Boy really led me to write the character a very different way.
Come on, you guys. Can't anybody take a joke? He'll never stop just being himself. No matter how mean people are to him or they don't get his jokes, he'll come up with more jokes. People don't really get Beast Boy all the time, and people really don't get me a lot of the times, too.
Cyborg is a kid who got hurt when he was in high school. He used to be an athlete, and so now he's this half robot, half teenage guy. And the robot part of him, you know, has made him stronger, you know, faster, you know, and given him these powers that he never would have had before.
If you were 15, 16, and all of a sudden you could do all of these things, yeah, there would be some regret, but there would also be a lot of, wow, this is amazing.
He's either really happy or he's really down. There's very few points where Cyborg's just kind of like, how you doing? I'm all right, I'm okay. I could take it, I could leave it. He's either, let's do it, or he's like, what are we gonna do, you know? You know, so he's just really exuberant.
When he would say, booyah, it was totally believable. You knew that he was behind it, he was enthusiastic, it didn't sound silly.
Give me a booyah out there. I'm gonna say booyah. Booyah! Give me a booyah. I love it.
We must mend your dispute by the sharing of unhealthy junk foods. I shall fetch them.
Starfire's not familiar with things on Earth, so we were saying, well, she has to be innocent, but everything's new to her.
So we started talking about her as the fact that she was a foreigner, that she was a foreign exchange student. And it started to make sense that, okay, she's from another place. Maybe she would hang a toilet seat on her wall and think that was, you know, that was art.
We knew we wanted some quality about her that was unique. So we needed something that was slightly different than what the other Titans sounded like, because she's just learning about the planet. She sometimes messes up the terminology. She'll say, you know, he has not yet done the booyah. So she'd have these phrases because she didn't really understand the language yet.
Hynden Walsh came in and brought the character to life. She would put a certain inflection on things, or she would throw a word in or take a word out, and we started writing more and more to that.
I suggest a large pizza with pickles, bananas, and mint frosting.
When all the Titans came together, we recorded the first episode, that's when we knew that it was really gonna work, because it was so much fun and all the different voices and all the different characters really worked together.
The writers can't help but watch the interplay that takes place between the actors, between the characters, and then they feed upon that as they go on and write scripts from there.
The actors have taken an active role in helping us determine who these people should be. So at every level, people have really had a lot of great input. I think that allowed them to become much more complete as characters. Slade was designed to be the ultimate evil for the Teen Titans.
He was relentless, he was nonstop, and he wanted the Titans. And that's what makes him scary, because he's a guy who'll do whatever it takes.
Too slow, Robin. You always were.
I knew you'd come back.
Slade does have powers. They're not the sort where he can shoot beams, or at least not yet, but he has enhanced strength and enhanced recovery and reflexes and all of that. But mostly he's a superior example of an ordinary man.
What are you planning?
Seismic generators, Robin. 3 of them.
There's an actor who has made a career of playing characters who are evil or ugly or what you would not think of as sexy, and that is Ron Perlman.
The funny thing about Ron Perlman doing that voice for Slade was when you hear him, he's done so much voiceover and he's such a talented actor that he knows exactly what he's doing with a microphone.
As long as I'm around, you are never alone.
I think maybe one of Slade's greatest weaknesses is probably the fact that he is so bound and determined and single-minded and focused in what he's doing that sometimes he can't see outside of what's going on right in front of him. And what's so great about the Teen Titans is anything goes for them. They don't play by the rules, so they're always going to come up with some kind of surprising move that's going to turn Slade on his heel.
He essentially became an evil father figure, and we wound up using that in a number of ways. In the first season with him attempting to essentially adopt Robin, and in the second season with him actually taking Tara on as an apprentice.
And that's what happened at the end of season 2 with Tara and the Aftershock, the 2-parter. We thought we got rid of Slade, and he came back. And certainly in Haunted, it was the mere thought of Slade. That's the scary thing about Slade. He doesn't have to be anywhere near you to be able to get you.
Slade's unbelievably driven, and he will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. If that means waiting weeks and months and years to do it, he will.
Blood. Brother Blood, at your service.
Brother Blood is someone who loves the spotlight. He's not going to be very coy about what he's doing. He's going to come right out and tell you.
Brother Blood has a number of powers which we never got too specific about, but he has the ability to manipulate people's minds, to sort of put a spell on people. The way we described it was that his power was the power of persuasion.
He is a very cultish leader in a lot of ways, and once Brother Blood gets you in his sights, he will find a way to charm you into submission.
Serve me, and I can make you what you once were. I can give back your life.
Brother Blood's obsession with Cyborg grew out of having these two characters interact, and we realized that when we did this first episode where Cyborg was able to not be persuaded, not be hypnotized by Brother Blood's powers, that what we knew of Brother Blood told us, wow, that would really get under his skin. So I think that there was a fascination for Brother Blood. Here's someone on whom my charms don't work. I need to understand that, or else I'm going to be destroyed by it.
Instead of the villain who was in the shadows, he was going to be very flamboyant, and he wanted to be in the spotlight, and he liked being a villain. He liked being in control of the Hive Academy. So that was the take we had with Brother Blood.
You can't defeat the Headmaster, Cyborg. When are you going to learn?
Red X began as Robin's alter ego. He was a character that he took on during the 2-parter with The Apprentice when Robin was pretending to train to become Slade's apprentice. Somewhere along the way, someone took hold of the suit and became Red X. He's the mystery guy. You don't know who he is. He's some guy who took on a suit, but now he's his own character who's a villain, but he may not be.
When I wrote Red X, I always thought of him as Robin without his moral compass. The exact same person, just without knowing right from wrong.
Well, Red X cheats. He doesn't fight fair. Robin is good, and Red X knows that about Robin, and that's Robin's weakness against Red X.
I thought thought you didn't like to play the hero. Doesn't mean I don't know how.
Red X doesn't know quite which side he's on, so where he benefits from that by being able to kind of switch from one side to the other, there are also moments where he hesitates, or a situation where Red X might get away. He might go back and save somebody and thereby get caught himself.
One of the things that makes Red X such an interesting and dastardly villain is he's so unpredictable. I mean, there is this giant question mark around him. We have no idea who he is. All we see is a suit. And understanding the villain or the person inside the suit is half of knowing how to defeat them. And for the Titans, they have no clue. And that's what's so confounding to Robin, is that here is this piece of technology that he created for himself that's been totally misappropriated by someone else, and he can't get to the bottom of who that is that's using it.
What's the matter, kid? Don't you want to play? After all, they're your toys.
Surprised to see me, little sister? I am surprised to see you out of prison!
Blackfire just is an evil sister. We had conceived her as the older, cooler, more experienced, better at everything, picks things up. I mean, she comes to Earth and has a better grasp of English than Starfire does almost immediately.
The thing about Blackfire is she is her sister, but she doesn't have any of those same qualities of goodness and kindness. And Blackfire and Starfire come from the same world.
Their powers are identical, however, their capacity for good is vastly weighted towards the Starfire end of the equation.
They definitely both have the power of flight. They both have the Starbolts.
It's the ultimate sibling rivalry between Starfire and Blackfire. And Blackfire definitely sees Starfire as everything that Starfire sees in Blackfire, but in the good way. So I can see that there is a deep resentment, if not hatred, that Blackfire has for her perfect little sister.
You'll always be my little sister. I am not so little anymore!
Blackfire had the Jewel of Charta, and I believe that that was the answer, that by smashing that gave Starfire a little bit more of an edge.
Blackfire has an enormous ego, and I think that is her greatest weakness. Her pride always gets in the way.
There was the conflict of good and evil, but that was also stretched across the bond of still being sisters, that Starfire can, you know, beat Blackfire up and win the battle and then say, it was still nice to see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mumbos of all ages, we have a really great show for you tonight.
Mumbo is a magician, and he's another one who's kind of interesting because he's kind of a bumbling character, but when he really is after something, he's pretty terrifying, that he can take you into his world.
The Amazing Mumbo was one of a few characters that we actually created for the show. And originally was just what we kind of call a villain of the week, one that just would come in, get defeated, and off he goes. But it was always a hope of ours that we could find ways to use Mumbo that we could really show off his powers in a way that were more on the fun side, in keeping with the lightness of his character rather than just the big bad, which he'll never ever beat.
When we decided to do a whole episode about Mumbo, it seemed natural that it would also focus on Raven, since there is the, you know, he's magic, she's magic, the different kinds of magic.
A peace offering.
You pulled that out of your sleeve.
Must you overanalyze everything? Why can't you just sit back and enjoy the show?
Because it isn't real.
I think he's the sleight of hand magician who got a hold of an actual magic wand. And of course, the price he paid was that it made him insane.
He thought that nobody would ever figure him out, or nobody would ever out-trick him. And that's what ended up getting the Titans free, was the trick at the end, that they were able to outsmart him at his own game.
Don't bother getting up, you're in my control. No way for you to fuss and fight.
I love directing musical animation, so it was great to have an episode of Teen Titans that had a song in it. So I knew I had to have someone who had cartoony energy and could give me a couple of different choices for voices and could sing. So as we were casting that, we thought, okay, who do we know that we'd like to have come and play that we haven't had a chance to use on the series yet? And we thought of Tom Kenny.
I am the one with magic powers round here. I am the one who runs the show.
If anybody was going to have a song, Mumbo was, and he was going to sing it himself, by goodness.
We get a musical number from Mumbo, which was completely appropriate to his character and a lot more fun than a chase, and really one of my favorite moments in the whole run of the show.
Now for the greatest grand finale and the reason why you're here. Tonight I will make the Titans disappear.
There, old man. At least we still have each other.
Mad Mod is a unique villain in that he is the only villain that I can think of that we pulled from the original Titans comics from the 60s, right down to the dialogue, calling them me duckies and things like that.
You know, there's an old British saying, my duckies, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
In the original comics, Mad Mod was a tailor. So if you think of him that way in context of his villainous persona now, he wants to remake the world in his own image.
When we were initially casting it, we knew we wanted Malcolm McDowell. He's just such a beautiful voice and loves to play in animation, and he made himself available to us.
Aren't you getting a little old for this?
On the contrary, laddie, I'm feeling younger by the tick.
Mad Mod is a bitter old man who tinkers with gadgets and is able to come up with some pretty amazing things to do with them. So he's a little old guy sitting there pulling levers and stuff, and in the case of Revolution in Season 3, he actually has come up with a gadget that lets him become the person that he pretends to be all the time.
Ah! That'll put the peas back in your porridge.
We decided to take Robin out of the equation since the first Mad Mod appearance was mostly a Robin story. This time we figured the weakness of the group was if Mad Mod removed Robin, and then the rest of the Titans would have to work together to figure out how to defeat him.
Quite a show, eh? Quite a show!
The Titans take advantage of his ego, take advantage of his desire to kind of make himself king, to slip in under the radar and just knock him when he's not looking.
Mad Mod's weakness is that he wants to be king, and the Titans prove that democracy is better.
Move it, slug crunchers. We're running out of time.
I could use a hand here.
The Hive Trio were pulled from the comics and then conceived for our series as the anti-Titans, just a team of evil kids. So they had already been pre-existing in the series, and then when we brought in Brother Blood as an evil teacher, it made sense to have an evil academy.
Undisputedly, their leader is Jinx. She is cool and in control, but is cursed with terrible bad luck. Mammoth is unstoppable. He is relentless, whether it's crashing through walls or eating whatever put in front of him. You know, Mammoth is Mammoth in every sense of the word. And then, of course, there's Gizmo. You know, his power is the power to annoy. Although not really. Gizmo is great with anything technological. He can think it, he can build it.
Individually, they're like the Titans, they're teen archetypes, you know. I mean, Jinx is sort of the snobby, popular girl. Gizmo is the smart aleck, foul-mouthed little kid, and Mammoth is the, you know, the great, big, powerful, brute glutton.
I think you could definitely say that the Titans are more organized, they have better skills, and they're fighting for good, and good always beats evil.
I think that the Titans prevailed in part because they actually cared about it. I think when you're doing something for the wrong reason, as the Hive kids frequently / always were, your heart's not in it in the same way as when you're doing it for the right reason.
The rule of mortals has ended. This world belongs to me!
Trigon the Terrible is just, you know, the ultimate of bad guy villains. Certainly in the Teen Titans universe, you can't get any worse than Trigon.
To give credit where credit is due, the whole Raven Trigon story comes out of the Marv Wolfman, George Perez Years of Titans. There's a trade paperback out called The Terror of Trigon that's just terrific. It's some of the best writing I think Marv ever did, and for my money, some of the best artwork George ever did.
Poor Raven, her whole life, she's known that something bad is going to happen, and here it comes. That, of course, is the arrival of her father. She knows that that's going to basically mean the end of her, the end of her friends, the end of the world as we know it.
It's the reason you have so many lighter episodes in season 4, like the Control Freak episode and Mother May I, is we really felt like we needed to balance that out, because the Trigon Raven story was about as dark as it ever got.
Always be Daddy's little girl.
Trigon's interesting because we needed somebody who was more powerful than Slade. And in our universe, Slade is the big bad. So here we've got some guy who's even worse than him, even more powerful, and he makes Slade work for him. It was a big challenge. How do you take down the most evil of all evils?
You just look at him, you can tell he's 20 stories tall, he's omniscient, he's omnipotent, he basically can conjure anything and there it's there. You can't defeat this foe.
That was kind of a problem doing the show, because Trigon is so powerful. How do you have them fight a character that powerful? That's one of the reasons why we had the Titans having to fight themselves.
Trigon's so powerful, he's not going to lift a finger to beat you up. He's going to just let you do it for him. So he splits them and they face, you know, their own personal demons.
The Earth is mine!
Trigon is the evilest. He is evil incarnate. We knew we needed someone with an inherently deep voice, but we also knew we wanted to treat it, to give it its huge size and to just pitch it down lower than any human voice should really be able to go. We all know Kevin Richardson has the ability to be massively talented. He just did it so beautifully. And, you know, you've got him acting in scenes against Ron Perlman as Slade, who is also a pretty darn deep-voiced evil guy. But Kevin's voice is so much deeper. And this guy, Trigon, is so evil that it makes Slade look like a good guy.
Look around. There's nothing left. What's the point?
Hope. That's the point. As long as we're still here, we still have a chance. And that's why we're going to keep fighting.
I think even with the Teen Titans fighting an impossible foe, who by all accounts can't be beat, the great thing about the Teen Titans is they still believe that they can. And they're going to try. They have proven time and time again that when faced with the impossible, they can make it happen. And they do. Trigon is defeated.
What ultimately defeats Trigon is, I think, the Achilles heel of someone who was all-powerful and all-knowing, which is arrogance. It's not that he doesn't see the threat coming, it's that he doesn't think it could possibly harm him, and why would he? But ultimately, it's just his daughter standing up to him.
Azarath Metreon Xantha!
I suppose you're wondering why I've brought you all here. Using all of your awesome powers, I command you to seek out the Teen Titans and annihilate them.
Control Freak was one of the villains that came out of our show. We made him. He showed up first in season 2 in just like a short scene in the beginning that was part of a larger episode. And he was so much fun when we got the animation back, and by the time the work was done, that we decided to bring him back in season 4 for a whole episode of his own.
Control Freak was originally supposed to just be like a filler character. We ended up really liking him because he's pretty much us. He's a big fanboy geek. It was our way to kind of do all the geeky fanboy stuff that we love to do.
We wanted to do a character that was really kind of an homage to the hardcore fan. And not just the hardcore Teen Titans fan, the hardcore fan of Doctor Who, TV, of movies, of Star Trek, of Star Wars, of everything.
When you're not cool, and I have some experience with that, there's a real desire to, if you can't be cool, to at least be the coolest of the uncool people. And I think that's what drives Control Freak.
He definitely has an air of superiority about him. If anyone is an expert at anything, it's gonna be him, and he certainly loves to flaunt that.
I control the horizontal. I control the vertical. And those buttons on your remote that don't seem to do anything? I know what they're for.
Control Freak, I think, is a little bit of David Slack, or a lot of David Slack. Just kind of every reference he had inside his head came out through Control Freak.
Being as he's sort of the uber evil fanboy, it just seemed natural that he would take the Titans into the television with him, which resulted in the most difficult script I've ever had to write. Not the hardest, but the most difficult, because every page you've got to think of a whole new show. It was just exhausting. When the first time they fight Control Freak in season 2, he's not that formidable, but here's this guy who knows all this stuff, and if he was able to take them into the area where he's God, where he knows everything, and manipulate that, then suddenly he goes from being a joke to being actually a threat, and I think that's part of the frustration of the episode for the Titans, is that if they were in the real world, they could just take him down, but in this world, he knows everything.
I think Control Freak's a great villain for the Titans because he is, in a lot of ways, always just one step ahead of them. You never know what's gonna happen next when this guy's around. So he always keeps you guessing.
Control Freak's in the same category with Mad Mod as one of those villains that I love to watch and hate to write, because he'll wear you out.
Foolish, snot-colored human. Have you forgotten that I am a 12th level space samurai? Have you forgotten that in here, I control the universe?
You will suffer for your impudence, green human! I am the Source, feared across 3 galaxies, destroyer of it!
When we started working on the Bob and the Source episode, Employee of the Month, I really started to wonder if there was something wrong with us. And Amy Wolfram will tell you, she just kind of threw up her hands at a certain point. When the bad guy became Talking Tofu, she was just like, okay, I don't get this anymore.
I think Tofu has really done something to Rob somewhere in his past, and this is him getting back at it.
Without a doubt, the Source is probably the most far-out villain that we've ever created for the show. And, you know, Manager Bob is an extension of the Source. That actually started with us brainstorming an episode about something fun to do with Beast Boy. I always wanted to do an episode where Beast Boy got a job.
Everything is going according to plan, Supreme Creator.
Then we got this idea of the, the Titans doing a sting and Cyborg in an undercover cow, and I don't know what happened. I think we were tired.
Cows and aliens, they always go together. It's like whenever there's some alien coming down from wherever they come down, they're always messing with the cows. I don't know why. It just happens.
You're trying to apply logic and reason to this, and it doesn't work that way.
I am the Source!
The big reveal, what is this sinister alien gonna look like? Is it gonna be huge with tentacles? Is it gonna have, like, breath of fire? Is it gonna be, be able to shoot lasers from his eyes? What is it? Is it gonna be menacing? Is it gonna be terrible, evil? No. It's a little cube about that big with a maniacal smile and a voice like this. Yeah, it's Nufu.
So I worked with Glenn Murakami designing Bob and the Source. I think we went back and forth on those things, just to get the Source, nice and squishy and tofu-y, and making Bob look really kind of 50s and out of place. I've eaten a lot of tofu in my life, and I'm very familiar with how spongy and squishy it is.
The problem with the Source is, in his own little Nufu mind, he thinks he's a whole lot more powerful than he really is. But I think once you take the Source out of his protective element, well, he's just a piece of talking tofu.
I think that some cartoons need to just be pure entertainment, and there doesn't have to be a single message or a single lesson to be learned or a moral. It's just, let's laugh and have fun watching a cartoon, and I don't think there's any moral. I don't even know if anybody could actually explain the plot clearly to me of what that episode is truly about.
Submit to my greatness, and I might just spare your pathetic... what is this?
Lunch.
were supposed to do a musical episode, and that got canned. So we had to come up with the story like kind of overnight.
From like 10 in the morning to about 10 at night, we concocted this character that was sort of this evil mother figure. We really didn't have that many great female villains, and we didn't have female villains that were evil in a really female way. That came out of, you know, we have a lot of evil dads on the show, and I really wanted us to have an evil mom.
Once we had the grandmother element established, which was the first element, it made sense to establish a sort of fairy tale element as well, because the story started drifting down sort of Hansel and Gretel lines.
Eat as much as you like, sweeties. There's plenty more where that came from. And remember, Mother loves you.
What mothers don't want to have children that love her? And of course, when you have an evil mother who feeds on that love, you kind of have an interesting dilemma.
She's essentially a love vampire that, and her power is too much nurturing.
If you really get a look at the real Mother May I, she's not that lovable. So she kind of has to use a little bit of persuasion in the way of hypnotic sweets.
I hired Billy Hayes as the voice of Mother May I, and Billy Hayes is probably best known as Witchy Poo from H&R Puff and Stuff, which is this great series that was done in the 60s. And we're also lucky and all such fans, and actually I believe the producers came to me and said, do you think we can get her?
I have to admit, like when she did the creepy laugh, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. It's just, it was really amazing.
There are things that recording technology can't do justice. And when she does that witch laugh, it's amazing when you hear it recorded, but when you're in the room with it, I'm not kidding, it sends a shiver down your spine. It's so clear and so loud. I've never heard anything like that laugh that she can do. It's a gift.
Mother will always be here to take care of you, whether you like it or not.
Bubba, you just opened up a six-pack!
What had happened was we designed a whole bunch of background characters for an episode in the 3rd season for The Hive. And I think Billy Numerous was one of the first. That was a name that Derek Wyatt came up with.
With Billy Numerous, I really wanted to make him kind of a fun, wacky Texan kind of character. He was, you know, a guy who uses his power to basically hang out with himself, you know, so he's that kind of character, so I wanted him to look like that. That's why he's got the shades on, and, you know, he's kind of got the red and black suit.
Look at this here funny Mexican hat I stole. Oh, hey, Billy, you're a good man. And a really good thief. Not to mention one heck of a good-looking feller, Billy.
What's interesting about Billy Numerous is he can definitely be more than one place at one time, you know, and that can really be a problem because you've got, you know, 5 villains to fight. Here comes Billy Numerous. Now there's 5 of them. Now there's 10 of them. Now there's 1,000 of them. Although we'd have established that the more he divides, the weaker his powers do get.
That limit that we put on his power, I think, came organically out of what we wanted the story to be about, which is that, you know, even someone who could double themselves could get spread too thin. Otherwise, he'd just cover the planet.
Attaboy, Billy! Steal it all! Can't nobody stop you? Yeehaw!
Every villain has their motivation in terms of what drives them, and I think for Billy Numerous, a lot of it is that he just is having a whole lot of fun.
I don't even know that he's evil so much. He's just a jerk, you know? I mean, look what he does. He goes on a big crime spree. He steals a bridge. What are you going to do with a bridge, you know? He steals it because he can. I think that's what makes him formidable, is that there's really not that much method to his madness. He's just a jerk.
Well, butter my backside and call me a biscuit.
Doom Patrol, move out!
We decided in season 5 that we were going to explore origins a little bit more, and what better to start with Beast Boy and the team that he originally was a member of, that being the Doom Patrol.
This was our first big DC Comics superhero team crossover, and it was the Doom Patrol, which is one of the coolest and definitely the weirdest superhero team out there.
When we brought the Doom Patrol over from the comic books, it was really just as simple as looking at the characters, figuring out what their powers are, looking how they'll work together as a team, and then taking our own spin on them and giving personalities that work well within our show. So it was not necessarily an unfaithful adaptation, but we really just were cherry-picking the best characters for the situation.
The problem with the Doom Patrol is they're the Doom Patrol. I mean, they're sort of the downer version of the Teen Titans. We wanted to kind of play that. We just wanted to parallel the two. What was neat about the Doom Patrol is you can see what the Titans could potentially be like when they grew up, if they lose sight of what their goal is.
What about Robot Man? Aren't we gonna go back for him? We need him for the mission.
Robot Man already did his part for the mission. We move forward.
The Teen Titans and the Doom Patrol are both hero teams, but they're very different in the way they do things. The Doom Patrol is very regimented. They have a definite structure in terms of who's the leader. That's Mento. Everyone else follows orders from him.
I said no. Now hurry up. We have a lot of ground to cover.
He was a father figure, but he was also a very stern father, and he was also a very, you do what I say, don't veer from it. He was more missions first, nothing else matters.
No matter what it takes. That was the oath the Doom Patrol swore, Beast Boy.
With Mento, we wanted him to be a really classic professor kind of character. We gave him a really retro kind of costume. We kept the flying saucer head with the antenna and the lightning bolt on his chest.
While Mento can get, very stubborn and single-minded and focused, Rita, Elastigirl, can really kind of find the human aspect of the team.
Put it out of your mind, Beast Boy. It helps.
Elastigirl's a very even-tempered, kind of settling influence on the team, and she is the kind of the glue that holds the team together.
Elastigirl had sort of a 50s go-go girl kind of costume with the mini skirt and the high boots and the bouffant kind of hairstyle with the headband.
Yeah, I'm on it.
Negative Man is great because he's got the name Negative Man, and it actually describes every aspect of his personality. He's totally doom and gloom.
Like, he's kind of dour. We're doomed. What are we gonna do next?
I really wouldn't go there. Trust me.
Negative Man is basically a mummy in a superhero outfit. How cool is that? It's just, you can't go wrong with that.
Out of my way! This one's mine!
Robot Man is the original Cyborg. He is a human brain inside a robot body. Unlike Cyborg, who never really has come to terms with his cybernetic aspect, Robot Man is totally down with it.
He's definitely an older, clunkier robot, whereas Cyborg is much more streamlined and futuristic. He's definitely bulkier than the comic, too. We wanted him to look a little more aggressive, more like a bulldozer.
You can do a lot with him. You can beat him up, and he takes a lot of punishment, and he dishes out a lot of punishment.
In the Doom Patrol, everyone's put into a box. And Beast Boy is, the little kid shape changer who, isn't quite a hero yet, so needs to do what he's told, and if he doesn't, well, then he can just get lost. And ultimately, that's what Beast Boy decides to do.
It was cool, too, just to see that Beast Boy kind of came from, like, a military family. That's why he's so kind of goofy and laid back now.
Season 5 is about Beast Boy in many ways. It starts off with him and his family, and it ends with him and his family in a different way.
The Doom Patrol were just more of a team, more of a military family, a little bit more rigid by the book. And I guess what's good about that is it shows, well, maybe that's what worked in the old days, or that's maybe what your parents are like, but it's important to be an individual, it's important to be a kid.
The Teen Titans has a lot of admiration for the Doom Patrol. I mean, they're famous. And the realization that Beast Boy was once a member of them is actually a little bit kind of surprising to the Teen Titans. I mean, gosh, these guys were, to a lot of them, they're heroes.
I don't like the looks of this. Welcome, Titans,
Titans East? After much analysis, I have created a series of events redesigned to challenge your specific powers. If you succeed, you will have proven your worth as Titans.
Well, in Season 3, we used the Titans East as kind of the other heroes, and they didn't really get their fair share. They never were given the opportunity to prove themselves.
When they first appeared, they seemed like just kind of throwaway, you know, not as popular as the original Titans were. But it was fun to direct this episode because then you can showcase, you know, they're not just the secondary Titans.
Yeah. Never heard of you.
The Titans East, I think, could probably handle their own, and they certainly do on their side of the world, but I think they don't get any respect. And that was one of the things that we had a lot of fun playing with.
Even the citizens they were saving thought they were wannabes.
Thank you, Robin. I like your other costume better.
I'm not Robin. I'm Speedy.
And it was time to give the Titans East their moment in the sun. Let's let them prove themselves as heroes.
So it was a lot of fun to kind of explore these characters that we have seen before but really didn't know as a team.
No, I'm the leader of the team, and we're done talking. We're taking you back to jail.
Bumblebee was a lot of fun to work on because she started out kind of as a foil to Cyborg in an early episode. And as we worked on her, we expanded her character and she became someone really fun and really cool to write. It wasn't just a typical streetwise, smart-talking girl. Like, she really had a deeper character to her.
She definitely functions in the leader role, but I think she can also be a little bit brusque. She can be a little bit demanding, and sometimes that, you know, I think the problem with Bumblebee is often she tries too hard.
So, are you like the Robin of the group?
Speedy was fun to do. He's kind of the loner of the group, you know, he's kind of like too cool for school. He's kind of like Robin, but he's not the team leader. He's more to himself, he's off in the distance, he likes to play it cool.
The way we kind of played him was as an opposite to Robin, whereas Robin was the much more serious, gadget-prone superhero. Speedy kind of was the lighthearted, gadget-prone superhero. He only took himself seriously in that he was full of himself.
So with Speedy, we wanted to keep him looking really classic, but kind of push it a little more modern too, so we kind of blended it together to get sort of a fusion of the classic and modern look. I think some of the costumes, like Speedy's, are so perfect the way they are that they don't need much updating. It's just, it looks so good to begin with that you just have to basically streamline a little, you know, put it in our style, and then it's already done.
So what if the kid didn't know your name? Let it go, Robin.
Aqualad is great, because much like Speedy, he's one of the classic original Teen Titans. Our Aqualad is kind of a rock star. He's got that cool look. He's got the mullet and the sweet outfit. He definitely is sort of a loner in the group because as kind of the one that swims around in the ocean, he's used to kind of being by himself.
So originally Aqualad had this sort of red and blue costume with little shorts, and we changed it to look more like the ocean. We wanted it to be sort of blue and black and have wave patterns in it, but we kept the fish scales because that was cool.
Más y menos si podemos. ¿Cómo funciona? No tengo idea. Es más complicado que el Space Shuttle.
When we came up with our original Titans East lineup, we wanted to have a speedster, but at the time we actually weren't able to use Kid Flash. So the decision was made to come up with our own version of the kid that goes fast. And then it was decided, well, gosh, wouldn't it be neat if we had twins that had opposite powers, plus and minus, más and menos, and they only go fast when they're touching. And what if they only speak Spanish?
Cuando nuestras manos se tocan, somos muy veloces.
So when we were designing Más y Menos, we were creating something new, but we also wanted to kind of keep it looking like a classic DC Comics speedster costume. So we made him real sleek and streamlined and gave him the goggles and the plus and minus signs.
Who are these guys? So, my chat room chums, tell me, what do you know about the Titans East?
Titans East are still trying to figure out how they fit together. They're like the Titans when the Titans first got together. They're figuring out what pieces they have and, you know, how they fit together and how they coordinate with each other. They're still kind of a young team.
We knew that we had to challenge them in individual ways and allow them to be able to learn to overcome the things that stand in their way. And when they found that they could do that, that's what pulled them together as a team and made them just as formidable as our regular Teen Titans.
Hey, don't be a Titans East hater.
Titans East are cool. Bumblebee and Aqualad forever.
The face of our enemy has changed. No longer is the Doom Patrol our only threat. Now a new generation stands in our way.
We wanted season 5 to be bigger, better, more characters, more action, more adventures, and the best way to do that is to add more characters.
The story dictated where we were going. The Titans went to other countries or other places and met other kids like them.
Now the hero roster spans the globe. There's got to be a way to keep them together. So we came up with the Titans Communicator with that iconic T on the front of it as the kind of link that brings everyone together.
They had to give out these communicators, keep in touch, let us know what's going on. But in doing so, they also formed one of the biggest fighting teams ever.
Communicator. The brain has been tracking our every move with the communicator I gave to Hotspot.
Before we started working on season 5, we sat down and you know, the directors and Glenn and the writers, we all sat down and kind of wrote down a wish list of all the characters that we wanted to see in the show.
You know, you get to play with all the old Titans, and it was all the, you know, Titans we wanted to, you know, get our hands on.
Who are you?
Kid Flash. Fastest boy alive.
Are you supposed to be a good guy or something?
One of the best.
Kid Flash is a really great, iconic character, and I'm so excited that I got to do an episode with him. He's such a big character, in fact, in terms of just the DC universe, and in terms of the Teen Titans universe as well, that he really needed his own episode.
I wish I could take credit for totally coming up with the idea of who to cast as Kid Flash, but the truth is, Glenn Murakami said, can we get Michael Rosenbaum? Because he had played Flash for me on the Justice League. So they said, do you think we can get him to sound young enough to be Kid Flash?
I work alone these days. You get a nice place. Very secret lair.
And so we asked him to manually himself, in performance, raise the pitch of his voice, and then we would also technically just speed it up a little bit.
I am sorry to confuse. You are no prisoner here. My name is Red Star.
In the comic books, Red Star actually had a very different origin than the one we used in the series. In fact, his original name was Starfire. Our Red Star, we decided that we were going to take the look, the uniform, the super soldier aspect, and really kind of reinvent him into something that was wholly unique for the series.
So with Red Star, we wanted to make him look a little more like military. We kept a lot of elements from his original costume, but we pushed it so it's more Russian, more cold, and a lot more utilitarian.
What was so fun about using this whole big list of characters is we got to introduce some that were a bit obscure.
Gnark and I go way back. I'm Cole.
Gnark, for some reason, everybody loved him. For seasons, they talked about bringing him in. So we got to bring in Cole and Gnark.
We were able to give Cole a power that she had never had in the comic books, which is, in the comics, she was like growing crystals and things like that. In this, she turned herself into crystal. And we thought that was a lot of fun to play with, especially since when she turns the crystal, she can't move. And that makes it perfect for Gnark, who is a caveman without a club. Now he has a club.
D. Bradley Baker is one of the unsung heroes of our industry. He played this character in this one episode called Gnark, and all he ever could utter was the word Gnark. And a tribute to his talent is how many different emotions and how he could carry through a scene by simply using the word Gnark.
Gnark! 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 Gnark!
Since season 5 in a lot of ways was about origins, it was really neat to be able to create some heroes, young heroes from whole cloth that we knew someday were going to grow up to be grown-up heroes.
Going along with our storyline, that if the brain was out to take out the teenage superheroes, he was going to take out the next generation too. And we wanted to put Raven into kind of the scariest situation for her, which would be babysitting a bunch of little kids. At the time, Michael Chang had a little child. So the teether is based a lot on his little girl and watching her and seeing the different things that she would do.
A lot of his actions were based on my young daughter, how she was acting at the time, where she'd put everything in her mouth. She was still learning how to walk, and so I'd try to copy, you know, what she'd do. She'd keep her hands up while she walked.
Much of season 5 was about breaking our characters apart. In the finale, finally we get them all back together again.
And I loved working on finale where it was a knockdown, drag-out fight with every character that you either loved or you hated. It doesn't matter. They were in it.
43 characters on screen, I think, is what we ended up with. And we had cards with every character's name. And we spread them out, and I said, well, who would be good against who? And we did matchups, this one with this one, this one with this one, this one with this one.
There's a reason why you didn't see that big fight until season 5. I mean, it just takes that long to get there. It's not like we set out to do the biggest superhero fight, you know, super battle ever. It just made sense.
Everything that we've ever wanted to do for the show is encapsulated in that one big, awesome battle.
Well, it was great to finally see all the characters together, the good guys, the bad guys, and for us at the end of our run, to have everybody together at once was really kind of cool.
Titans, together!
Robin's strategy has failed, and one by one, they will fall.
Fighting against a single villain probably wouldn't have been as effective because we just had the single villain in the last season. So we definitely wanted a team. And of all the villain teams that are available to the Teen Titans universe, the Brotherhood of Evil definitely were the ones to watch.
We really wanted villains that were adults versus our teenage villains. And they were all about taking out the next generation. They wanted to take them down and any future generations so that they would be the ones in charge.
Our take on the Brotherhood of Evil was very much from the Silver Age of DC Comics. And back in those days, their motivations were very simple. Take over the world. We have a master plan and we will see it, and mwahahaha, we are evil.
What's cool about the older DC characters is they're iconic, but there's something about the goofiness about the characters that makes them creepier.
It is you who has been defeated. I have captured the king. Your pawns cannot save you.
In the Brotherhood of Evil, the Brain is the boss, and everyone answers to him. So while we have some villains that work around him that are certainly very dangerous in their own right, it all begins and ends with the Brain himself.
The Brain was the chess player. So he was all about strategy, he was all about skill, and he would much rather play the game as long as he could than just take them down fast.
The Brain is emotionless. He has gotten rid of his body. He does not want a body. We designed him to be really sleek and sterile, like a chess piece. You know, you get that theme when he and Mala are actually playing chess, and he's a chess piece sitting on a big chessboard, you know, and they're looking at a little chessboard playing chess. It's all kind of a theme that runs through the Brotherhood.
They fight with much enthusiasm. Allow me to crush them.
One of the problems of being a super genius is you really don't have anyone to talk to. So the Brain created a super genius gorilla to be his sidekick, basically, you know, putting a smart brain in a dumb ape.
And the dynamics you had between the Brain and Monsieur Mala, that kind of dynamic we had never had with any villains from the show before.
We brought in this wonderful character actor named Glenn Shaddix. So in this season of Teen Titans, we had to have Glenn Shaddix play two characters that spoke to each other, and it was Monsieur Mala and Brain. And they had scenes together where they actually had to go back and forth. And he did it practically flawlessly.
You stop a common thief, but what about a real villain?
Madame Rouge is a shape changer. And when you think about duplicitous, villainous behavior, being able to be anything, anywhere is certainly something that is a force to be reckoned with.
The thing that I loved about Madame Rouge was being able to play with her powers in animation, being able to make her stretch, make her transform, or morph.
Madame Rouge was just plain evil, and I wanted to do a female character who was just mean.
In my experience, this would be considered a crushing defeat. Battalion, fire!
So with General Mortis, he's been around since the dawn of time, so we wanted to make him look ancient. He's got this small, withered body with kind of a big turnipy head.
He ages very slowly, so he's been around since the dawn of time and has seen every war, every battle since the beginning of human history. And as a result of that, knows every battle plan, every tactic, and uses that to wipe the board of all adversaries that get in his way.
What we wanted to do with the Titans, we wanted to split them apart. They're getting older, they're becoming more individual, they're dividing. And it's a brotherhood realizing that the Titans are a family, and the easiest way to get to them is to split them apart.
Everything is now in place. My only desire is an admission of defeat.
I think that Brain really thought he had the heroes figured out. I think he underestimated how driven the heroes were and how loyal they were to each other.
I think in a lot of ways the biggest problem with the Brotherhood of Evil is they were really kind of set in their ways, and very old-fashioned ways at that. And here they are facing a whole new breed of heroes, young kids who have a different way of doing things, and for kind of grown-ups who are used to doing things a certain way, having these kind of upstart kid heroes that come in and mess up their plans is something that's completely unexpected for them.
Our young Titans are spreading out far and wide, but that will not save them.
Lord Trogar, the weapon has reached full power. Then begin the firing sequence.
The Gordanians came from the comic books. They were interstellar bad guys, kind of these lizard guys that that were all about world conquest. In doing an origin episode that had Starfire as the centerpiece, it made sense to use a villain from her world, and in that case, the Gordanians were the perfect fit.
The Gordanians had captured Starfire, or bringing her back to their home planet as a trophy since they were at war with the Tamaranians. She escaped and got loose into the city, and then they basically threatened the Titan city to get her back.
Fools! The Earth scum were warned. Your insolence will be punished. Your city shall be destroyed.
They're the kind of guys that come in their big, giant, world-crushing spaceship. You make their demands, and if they're not immediately met, they trigger their doomsday device and boom, planet gone. They don't mess around, these guys.
It was like an army. We needed something to bring the whole city together and all the Titans together.
One of the things that was the Gordanians' downfall is they never took these kids seriously. I mean, come on, we're the big Gordanians, and here's a bunch of kids that are going to come up here and try to defeat us? Hardly. So they were never taken seriously. So in a lot of ways, the Gordanians' defenses were down.
Hey, sir. I mean, Robin, do you maybe...
Sorry, I just went solo. I'm not really looking to join a team.
Need a sidekick?
It was always in the back of our minds that it would be great to do an origin episode at some point.
Glenn never wanted to do the origin in the beginning. He always felt that it was too soon, and we'd come upon our teenagers already as a team, already getting along. And for some reason, it just seemed to fit in our last season, especially as we were doing the story of handing out communicators. It seemed like a great story to tell how you got the very first one.
I thought we might want to keep in touch, so Cyborg and I designed these.
Made them out of my own circuits.
We wanted to jump into their lives as superheroes right away. We didn't want to be saddled with a setup. And that's why I think by holding it until the 5th season, we were able to see their past as it relates to their present. We were able to see where they've come from by seeing where they are now.
Go team.
It's cool to know how the Titans behave, and then when you see them acting out of character, then it means more. If you'd seen that in order, it wouldn't have been as interesting.
The origin episode was a big challenge for us because there was so much story we wanted to tell, but we had to condense it into 22 minutes.
I think it was a lot harder, certainly, than anticipated because it was telling 5 big stories in one small episode. And we wanted to see the first of everything, the first booyah, the first time Beast Boy tells a joke. It was the first for everything, and it was a lot of information to get out. I think it was a fun episode, but it was a trying one, too.
Guess we could all use some new friends.
Besides, we kind of made a good team.